Hello again. This week we've seen the government announce the future direction of our foreign policy. We may well ask what difference that makes to our everyday lives. But of course we've seen in the past year an amplification of the key questions in politics, the art of the possible. It's all about having to make the decisions about, on the positive side, what our priorities are, and on the negative side, the lesser of however many evils are being considered. And the impacts are real. This year of COVID has shone a light on how unequal our country is socially, for example. And perhaps, especially in the context of Brexit, when we're having to find our way in the world in a new fashion, how we relate to the rest of the world matters. I'd like to hold together two aspects of our government's approach to foreign policy. Firstly, something which has been in the news for a little while now, the proposal to reduce the proportion of GDP which we give as overseas aid. The reason is apparently that we are, of course, very short of money because of the pandemic. We could, of course, point out that this is the very point of committing to a percentage of a total, that when we have less, we give less. But perhaps the government has decided that at a moral level it no longer wishes to be as generous, and at a diplomatic or political level it no longer wishes to be seen or thought of as generous. And there is certainly less money around. Until, that is, it comes to the other aspect of the foreign policy document I want to consider. It is apparently now the right thing to do to raise the cap on the number of nuclear warheads we have. For many years we've been reducing the numbers in accordance with our commitments under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Before this week, our policy was to reduce to a stockpile of no more than 180 warheads. That's probably about 1,200 Hiroshimas. We're now increasing that to 260 warheads, adding more than 500 or so more Hiroshimas. Even with 1940s technology, that bomb destroyed an area with a radius of about a mile and killed about 100,000 people. I know this is incredibly simplistic, but assuming a similar area to be destroyed, if we dropped that much centred on Oxford, Luton would be gone, as would Milton Keynes, as would Northampton, as would Leamington Spa, Cheltenham and Gloucester, Swindon, Basingstoke, Slough, and into London as far as Harrow and Wembley. And all of this is costing billions of pounds, and all with no point except to try and make us look strong, while we refuse to engage with the UN treaty which outlawed nuclear weapons, which came into force in January. On the scale of national economies, I suspect these two amounts of money are actually pretty comparable. The amount we say we can no longer afford to help the poorest people in the world, and the amount we would spend to be able to threaten to kill roughly as many people as live in the whole of England. This and that. I don't think I need to indulge in any great depth of Bible study or theological thinking to point out why the direction our government is taking might be wrong. And as several people have wondered, why don't we clap for the nuclear weapons and give the money to the nurses? So I'm pleased that church leaders from several denominations quickly put out a statement in response to this news. It was signed by the President and Vice President of the Methodist Conference, as well as the Archbishop of York from the Church of England, the Archbishop of Wales and the Bishop of St David's from the Anglican Church in Wales, 2 bishops from the Catholic Bishops' Conference of England and Wales, the moderator of the URC General Assembly, the moderator of the Baptist Union Council, the recording clerk of Quakers in Britain, and the General Secretary of Churches Together in Britain and Ireland. I'm going to finish today's thought simply by reading their statement from the other day. The government's decision in the Integrated Review of Defence, Security and Foreign Policy to increase the number of Trident nuclear warheads the UK can stockpile by more than 40% is a retrograde step that will not make any of us safer. Our Trident submarines already carry warheads that in total have an explosive yield equivalent to hundreds of the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima. It is immoral that the UK government is committing resources which could be spent on the common good of our society to stockpiling even more. Over the last 50 years, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty has restricted the increase in the number of nuclear weapons worldwide, as well as the number of new nuclear-armed states. This announcement puts those gains in jeopardy and weakens collective action on non-proliferation. Progress on reducing the threat from nuclear weapons will come through dialogue, diplomacy and principled action. The government's announcement today will complicate rather than aid this process. The entry into force of the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons is an encouraging development. As people of faith, we join with millions across the world who are working towards the elimination of nuclear arsenals. Living up to our responsibilities under the Non-Proliferation Treaty would be a step towards realising that vision. We believe that global Britain should strive for peaceful and cooperative international relationships and joint endeavour on climate change, global poverty and other challenges. This announcement takes us in a worrying and wholly wrong direction. Okay, maybe I will bring in a bit of the Bible. Here are the last 10 verses of Psalm 33. The Lord looks down from heaven. He sees all humankind. From where he sits enthroned, he watches all the inhabitants of the earth. He who fashions the hearts of them all and observes all their deeds. A king is not saved by his great army. A warrior is not delivered by his great strength. The war horse is a vain hope for victory, and by its great might it cannot save. Truly the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his steadfast love, to deliver their soul from death and to keep them alive in famine. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and shield. Our heart is glad in him, because we trust in his holy name. Let your steadfast love, O Lord, be upon us, even as we hope in you. God bless. See you soon.